Welcome to the Liberating Beauty Podcast. I'm Rebecca, your host, and together we'll explore the spirit of beauty, how beauty invites new possibilities, enlivens us to inhabit our innate creativity, and connects us more deeply with ourselves and with each other. We'll have conversations and share reflections that invite you into a frequency of gentleness, truth, and mystery. I'm so glad you're here. If you find the Liberating Beauty Podcast meaningful, please consider supporting our work. To donate, follow the link in the show notes to the Together in Beauty website, home to this podcast, along with other offerings to accompany you on your journey of spiritual becoming. Please subscribe, rate, and share this podcast wherever you listen. And as always, thank you for your support and for being here with us.
Be with beauty, liberation.
Hello, everyone. I'm so glad you're here with me for today's episode, wherever it is that you're tuning in. I'm excited for today's conversation. It's been a really exciting and kind of mysterious week in the best kind of grounded and beautiful way. And I'm really looking forward to sharing what's unfolded, because it feels like the kind of experience that is accessible to all of us in our own ways and incredibly profound when it happens. So the episode today, our title is On Love, Forgiveness, and Coming Home to Beauty. So those aren't just pretty words. I want to let you know where that came from and what that meant. It was really in some ways inspired by the piece about love. Was you could have years of having this sense of something about to happen, and the thing about to happen being something in the way of release. That sounds good. It's so high level, it's so vague. It's like, okay, cool, like surrender, you know what I mean? So, but I didn't have a sense of direction about what that actually meant. And in my own spiritual practice, one of the things has become ever more clear is we really need to kind of hone in on what's actually the question that needs our attention, and what level of specificity or broadness is necessary really to get at the heart of why we're here. And so when I had this sense of something about to be released, it was like, okay, what is that really about? What's the question I'm sitting with that will, in starting to answer it, it's more than just even revealing purpose, but allowing life to move in the most peaceful, beautiful, and generative way possible, and not just for myself but for others too. And finally, just last week, I landed on the question for me, and it's like funny how it's so simple, and I'm sure it's a question I've heard a million times over, but it just landed, and it was, what do I need to release to truly love myself? I'm like still baffled at the simplicity of it, but nonetheless completely moved by what happens when we hone in on the question that really is yearning for our attention. So I want to share with you what unfolded over the course of 3 really kind of epic meditation sessions this last week, and I hope there's something in it for you that feels generative or useful in some way on your own journeys, because I will say the whole situation surprised me in the best way possible. So yeah, I think maybe I'll tell it as like a story, because that's what it is, a story of these 3 meditations and what kind of was unearthed in them. I had tried meditation on and off my entire life and felt like it was something I should do, and all of the evolved people and peaceful people that I knew had these really rich practices, but I don't know, like I just really struggled to really connect with the practice. And something about learning about the Akashic field and the sense of everything that's known is kind of encoded in our shared history, and it's there in service of all that we are today, kind of making our way in the world and understanding more about who we are and where we've come from. That's just resonated in a way that no other meditation practice hasn't. So that's the practice I use. I wouldn't say practice, that's the form of meditation. And in subsequent episodes, we can talk more about what it means and how to access it and all that good stuff. But for today, I just want to share what came out of these sessions, because like I say, they're just so powerful in a sense of almost feeling like a cycle was ended and a new chapter of life began. And it's, I don't know, I feel like I say that, I feel like I'm sensationalizing it, but it feels so true. So the first session, I sat down to meditate and kind of coming into resonance with the Akashic field, and asked this question of the record keepers or guides or spirit, however you kind of relate to that idea. And I said, what do I need to release in order to love myself? And as another piece of context about this too, I asked that question in this Akashic field, but there was another thing I did differently this time, and maybe this, no doubt, contributed to the power of the insight that emerged. Was this: I was doing this like tapping on my legs, just like back and forth, tapping one leg then the other leg. I was borrowing this from an EMDR therapeutic approach, which tries to stimulate the two different hemispheres of the brain. I can put a link down to what EMDR is. I should know what that acronym is. It is escaping me. But nonetheless, the effect it had on me, this kind of tapping back and forth as I was asking this question, was it was stimulating a body response too, like a reckoning and awakening of all of the stories that lived inside of me, that lived within the body, that were kind of coming to the surface as I was reckoning with, what gets in the way of love? And I had no intention of doing this, but what happened was I started almost like a life review, looking back to the very earliest memories that I could access about places where I had not loved myself and felt unlovable, and even more than unlovable, a complete problem, a liability. And it was shocking and humbling to see that I felt that way at almost every single turn, starting, at age 3, when some of the earliest memories I could access. Whether that was, I was enrolled in a ballet class when I was 3, and I was kicked out of that ballet class twice because the rule, and this was Miss Bonnie's ballet class, well, the rule was that you had to go to the bathroom before class, because if you don't, and then you have to go during class, then everybody has to go during class, and then we have no time left to do ballet. And I'm the kind of person that if I can't do something like go to the bathroom, then I have to go constantly. So I, of course, needed to go, and it disrupted the class. And the teacher told my mom that I'm not, mature enough for ballet. Like, like I think of that now with my daughter, like the ridiculousness of telling a child, like, if you've got to attend to your basic needs, you're not okay at 3. So, so starting with that, and then it just went on and on, all these different moments at school, being told I was too bossy because I always wanted to play the mom and we played pretend, Or, moments in, when I was in the 6th or 7th grade, which was that, maybe 11 or 12, that, I wasn't the kind of kid who would go to some really good college. These other smart kids, they're the ones who are going to go there, to kind of right-size my expectation for what my life would be like. And really believing that, because it was said, therefore, it must be true, and feeling so shameful that I would have even thought, or ashamed, that I would have even thought that I was good enough to do the things these other people were good enough to do. Or, years of struggling with body image and thinking, well, if I don't look like those other people, then something's wrong with me. And just all the belief, the constant belief in a story that something's wrong, on and on and on. And the image that came to me through this life review was an entire life coated in shame, an entire life that I couldn't, it's not like a shameful event, singular, happened, or a couple. It was the whole thing at every turn would have me feeling this heaviness of doing something wrong, which is, I don't know, it's amazing, because on the one hand, I've talk about in my writing the pervasiveness of shame, but just to see how every single decision point, where I went to college, where I met, where I ended up living, how I cared for my parents when they were dying, or my children when they were born, every single thing. And I thought, wow, oh my goodness, how easy it is to fall into a belief about who we are that is so out of sync with our natural, our innate goodness. So like I say, I'm speechless by what I noticed during that session. And somehow, I think I also I'd been in this meditation session, lasted a long time. And maybe an hour and a half into it, I knew I needed to kind of wrap up, and the kids were home. It was a holiday. And I ended the session with a sense of there's something about forgiveness that needs attention in my next meditation. So I wrap up the cycle, and I kid you not, I could not wait for the next day to meditate again, which I've never had that happen, where I'm oh yes, can't wait, So, but you know when you're onto something meaningful, and it was that. I was okay, there's something here. So next day, I continue this inquiry of, okay, what do I have to let go of in order to love myself? And the first thing was just noticing, every place where love did not reside. And then this thought of forgiveness kind of came up, and it was so many times in the past I thought, oh, I need to forgive myself for, the things I didn't know better, or something that kind of assumed blame, but was gentle about kind of letting me off the hook because I didn't know. And this was a very different take on forgiveness. It was something like, I need to forgive myself for believing the story of who I've been told I am. So it's different. So so many times I've caught myself thinking I have a distorted point of view. Well, first of all, everybody's point of view is distorted. Distorted, biased, limited, of course. But that's different than I've believed the distortion that something is wrong with me. How many of us have believed in a false narrative of who it is that we think we are? So, again, spontaneously, I found myself going back to the life review and going back to all of these moments in the past where I had noticed the lack of love, the shame, and I thought, okay, what would it feel like to inhabit each of those moments from a place of, I forgive myself for believing what they told me was true. It's just the most powerful thing, because what happened was when my baseline went from there's something wrong, there's a problem with me, to I am goodness, I am wholesomeness, I am beauty by virtue of being alive and being here, then I could look at every situation in the past and I could see so clearly where, yeah, there are instances where I messed up or wasn't as kind as I could be, but like it was okay, like what my dad used to say, like, welcome to the human race, you're gonna mess up sometimes, but it wasn't this whole like meltdown of I'm such an awful person. It was like, hey, say you're sorry and get on with it. Or if someone said something to me, like, okay, cool, like that's their opinion, it doesn't make it true just by virtue of it being said. So I went through this again and again and again. Meanwhile, by the way, I continue doing this tapping, like the tapping outside my mouth, like the binaural EMDR tapping for a long time. It's like the second session was a couple hours long. And I tapped so long as I kind of revisited all these memories. By the time I done tapping, like my whole body was just tingling with energy, like something calcified had loosened and the energy just was running wild. And I kind of used my imagination to move that energy through my entire body. And I don't know why, but it felt like it had a golden quality. And I moved it through, the top of my head to the tip of my toes. And then I imagined it having a medicinal quality and kind of bathing it in my brain folds and my heart and spirit, my ears, my eyes, like any place that anything got in and said something's wrong, like repatterning it, recoding it in something true. So this goes on for a couple hours, and finally I'm like, okay, I gotta get back to the kids. It's the weekend, and I could have stayed there for days. And I kind of quietly get up, and it's the time of year where it gets kind of dark early, and it's also cold. And I look out my window, and I could see a wasp's nest, and it must be vacated because of the time of year, that I'd never seen from my bedroom window before. Just kind of blowing in the wind. This thing that used to be a home and house the protection of these wasps was now vacant. And it just felt so profound to me just to see it, and it looks so innocent, like it had served a purpose, and it was there as a reminder of things that have served a role and then that move on. I mean, it was just the most bizarre image to kind of literally kind of wake up to. And to that point, I truly had the sense of like I just woke up and into my life. And I want to, we start waking up, awakening. Like I don't want to glorify it into more than it was, but I will say it had the quality of like I've just woken up from the dream of a distortion, and I have such a delight to live in truth of what's possible. And I think that's a good distinction, because it's not like I woke up feeling like, oh, I am now the Buddha or anything like that. Like, no, just like, wow, I have an opportunity to live a much more peaceful life. Because so much of the chatter in my mind has been about the, oh my gosh, and something's wrong, and how do I see it differently, and how can I learn from it differently, and all the things. So powerful. I mean, I again could not wait till the next day to kind of be with it, everything again. And so the next day I thought, well, the thing that I really want to do is to just continue to bathe in this golden light and really not ask any more questions, because I'm like, well, I've got my question about what do I need to, unlearn or release. And it's like, yeah, I need to release the story. I need to forgive myself and just sit with that. And that third session was, again, like mind-blowing. It just, I could start now watching my life as if it were a movie and just see it as the empowered person that I am, and see it clearly in my humanness, where, again, like places I've made mistakes, places where I'd thrived and hadn't owned it, and there was just this lightness. And another amazing piece was like, whereas I usually ask the record keepers, spirit guides, to kind of watch and witness me when I'm in the records, to actually, like, answer my questions. It was more like just walk with me, because I don't need more guidance right now. I didn't feel like I need to use the fact that when I'm in the records, I've got access to a higher self or a kinder self. It's like I could just be in it more gently. And honest to God, it was the most profound spiritual experience I've ever had. And I've tried all the things out there to try to access the divinity within. And this one of radical love and forgiveness of the story is unlike anything I've ever experienced. So sharing that with you, and as always, like, many invitations here, because what brings one person into greater truth and resonance and beauty is amazing, and it's not always the same path. But I remain so curious. What are the questions that have brought you? What are the questions you're like, okay, this was the question. This is the one that starts popping all the bubbles that are not true. This is the one that gets me closer into my spiritual center in a way that nothing else has before, that lacks a sense of striving and seeking and needing and, pulling and pushing. What are the questions that have gotten you closer? And what are the modalities that have served you in living into those questions? I mean, there's so many of them. I'd love to hear about that. I, as always, remain such an optimist about what's possible when each of us starts getting, even just inching closer to a gentler, loving, compassionate version of ourselves, a version that has always been there and that has perhaps become buried in moments or a lifetime or lifetimes, and that starts to kind of bubble to the surface. That access to truth, or a truer version of who we are, is profoundly beautiful and as of great service to all of us. So please keep living into your questions and your beauty, and reach out at any time. You can connect with me at rebecca@togetherinbeauty.com. And until we connect next time, may you walk in beauty. Take care.
With beauty, liberation.
Thank you for listening to the Liberating Beauty Podcast. To learn more about the podcast, my work, and how I can support you on your journey of spiritual becoming, head over to the Together in Beauty website or email me at rebecca@togetherinbeauty.com. It's an honor to accompany you on the journey. A huge thank you to our multi-talented producer and co-creative director, Mapumba Cilombo. To learn more about Mapumba's work as a producer, sound engineer, and musician, check out the show notes for a link to his website at mapumbamusic.com. And as always, many thanks to you, our listeners. None of this would be possible without the energy, encouragement, and vitality that you reflect back to us each week. Until next time, may you walk in beauty.